A button that, whether pressed or not, defines the course of a life. Hi, Studio Recapped here. Today, we're going to talk about a movie called The Box from 2009, in the drama, thriller, and mystery genres. Spoiler alert is on. Take care. Norma Lewis is a kind school teacher. She has a disability in her leg, which makes it difficult for her to walk properly. Sometimes, one of her students mocks her because of this issue. Recently, the school announced plans to reduce teachers' salaries, which means Norma's life will become even more financially strained. Norma's husband is Arthur Lewis, a NASA engineer who has always been passionate about space exploration and is seriously considering a mission to Mars. At the break of dawn one day, their doorbell rings, and they find a box placed outside their door. Norma picks it up and opens it. Inside the elegantly designed box is a button, locked with a key. There's also a letter next to the box from a man named Mr. Stewart, saying he will call at 5 p.m., right on time. Mr. Stewart, with an eerie and unsettling appearance, arrives at the Lewis household. He hands Norma an envelope containing the key. Stewart makes her an offer. If they decide to press the button, a few random strangers from different parts of the world will die. In return, they will receive nearly $1 million, a life-changing amount for a family in their financial situation. Stewart even shows Norma the full amount of $1 million in a briefcase. He also gives her a $100 bill as a gift. Norma can't wrap her head around whether this is real and keeps wondering who Stewart might be working for. Stewart explains that the payment comes with 3 conditions. 1. They cannot ask about his employer. 2. They are not allowed to discuss this offer with anyone else. 3. They have only 24 hours to decide. After that, the offer will be given to someone else. Arthur designs a special mold to help Norma walk more easily. Arthur, contrary to his expectations, fails his psychological tests. This means he can no longer pursue his dream job. They talk about Norma's meeting with Stewart earlier that day. For Norma, this whole situation feels real and serious. Arthur, on the other hand, believes the button and everything Stewart said are just a joke. They leave their son with a babysitter named Dana and go out to watch a play. Both of them are preoccupied with what's happening, especially since Stewart gave them $100 for no apparent reason. Norma believes Stewart might be a psychopath using this situation to kill people and make them feel guilty for the deaths. When they return home, Arthur examines the box in detail. Upon opening it, he finds no wires or transmitters inside. He concludes that even if they press the button, nothing will happen and that this is all just a prank. Norma starts thinking about how they might never have the chance to see this amount of money again in their lives. She's tempted to press the button because getting that money could change their lives significantly. Norma decides to postpone her foot surgery since they don't have the money for it. While they're pondering the consequences of pressing the button, Norma suddenly makes a quick decision and presses it. Someone calls the police to report hearing screams and gunshots. When the police arrive, they find a woman's dead body who had been shot. They also find a terrified little girl locked in the bathroom. The case gets assigned to a detective, who happens to be Norma's father. Stewart visits the Lewis household and, as promised, hands them the briefcase full of cash. Then, he takes back the box and the key, saying he'll pass it to someone else. He assures them the next recipient will be someone they don't know. Arthur, feeling regretful, tries to return the money, but Stewart refuses, saying the button has already been pressed, and there's no going back. Arthur notes down Stewart's license plate. After that, Norma becomes paranoid, fearing they might be the next ones to die. Arthur gives Norma the custom-made brace he had made for her. When she puts it on, she's able to walk comfortably. Later, they attend a party. At the party, gifts are prepared for the couples attending. When Arthur randomly tries to pick one, a young waiter gestures with his hands, signaling the number 2. This waiter turns out to be the same student who used to mock Norma in her class. Arthur takes the box and, upon opening it, finds an old photo of Stewart with his face unharmed. Arthur hands Stuart's license plate to Norma's father, asking him to find out who it belongs to. Stuart calls Norma and says, "Your husband gave my license plate number to a police officer." He then claims that he has people everywhere and knows everything. Arthur is suspicious of the waiter's strange behavior. When he realizes how the boy treated Norma in the past, he attacks and beats him. From then on, they start noticing strange behavior from various people. Someone writes on Arthur's car window, "There's no way out." When they return home, Arthur drives Dana back. During the ride, Dana starts talking strangely about looking into the light. Suddenly, her nose starts bleeding, and she faints. Moments later, she jumps up in panic, screaming at Arthur to save himself and leave the area immediately. She exits the car and heads toward a strange location. It turns out Dana is one of Stuart's people. Later that night, Arthur gets an idea and heads to the basement. He discovers that Stuart was once a NASA employee. Stuart calls Norma, warning her that he knows about her husband's detective games, and advises her to stop him. Norma asks Stuart for a face-to-face meeting, but he responds, "I'm already watching you." At that moment, Norma spots a mysterious figure staring at her through the window. Regarding Stuart, he's portrayed in the film as a mysterious and supernatural figure who's responsible for delivering the box to different individuals. He works for an alien force or extraterrestrial beings that aim to study human behavior in morally challenging situations. These extraterrestrials use Stuart to conduct a moral experiment on humans. Their goal is to see whether people can resist selfish temptations. When someone presses the button, it shows they are willing to sacrifice the life of an unknown person for money. This choice is part of the aliens' experiment on humanity. Arthur traces Stuart's license plate to an organization called NSE. While investigating, he discovers a file on a woman whose husband had shot her directly in the chest. The time of her murder coincides exactly with the moment they pressed the button. Arthur asks Norma's father to take him to the woman's house. There, he finds a photo of Stuart and explains to his father-in-law what Stuart has been doing. Arthur secretly takes a document from the house. A woman approaches Norma and tells her cryptic things about NSE, urging her to visit the Richmond Library and follow up on a phone number she gives her. She warns Norma not to trust anyone, not even her husband. Shortly after, the woman experiences a nosebleed and faints. Norma goes to the address provided. Meanwhile, Arthur also arrives there. Arthur heads to a section of the library and sees many people. When he asks a library staff member what Stuart wants from them, she replies, "He's testing you." The woman then leads Arthur to a place with 3 gates, explaining that he must choose one. Only one gate leads to salvation, while the other 2 lead to eternal damnation. Arthur ultimately chooses the correct gate. Norma manages to meet Stuart. She learns that his face was burned by radiation, and he now works for the beings controlling that radiation. Stuart takes her hand, and shortly after, Norma faints. When Norma wakes up, she finds herself lying on a bed, with Arthur inside a water chamber above her. The chamber collapses, and Arthur, along with the water, falls onto the bed. Walter is confused and interrogates them, but they have no answers to give. They are invited to a wedding and attend. During the dance, Arthur shares with Norma everything he has experienced. Feeling unwell, he leaves the venue, only to be confronted by a man who puts a gun to his head, saying, "You can still save yourself." This man is revealed to be the same person who had shot his wife. The man explains that he was instructed to kill the person who pressed the button in order to save his daughter. Walter, after leaving with his father, is kidnapped. Norma realizes what's happening but cannot stop it. Walter is taken to an unknown location. When Arthur arrives at the location, a man tells him that what happens next will surpass anything he can imagine. Arthur and Norma are taken back home, where Stuart is already waiting for them. Stuart expresses his regret that they pressed the button. Walter is now both blind and deaf. They are given 2 choices. 1. Live the rest of their lives with Walter in this condition. 2. Use the single bullet provided to kill the person who pressed the button, restoring Walter's health. Norma begs Stuart to allow her to end her own life, but he refuses. They hear Walter's cries from the bathroom, where he is locked up, screaming that he can't see or hear and begging for help. Norma pleads with Arthur to kill her in order to save their son. After much internal struggle, Arthur reluctantly agrees. Following a heartfelt farewell, he shoots Norma, killing her. As a result, Walter's sight and hearing are restored. Immediately after Arthur pulls the trigger, we see another couple pressing the button, continuing the cycle indefinitely.